Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to share and subscribe the channel. The Unexpected Invitation. Dr. Rowan Sinclair peered through the reinforced glass of Sector Lab Gamma on Rhea Station. He tapped a slender finger against the console, tracing patterns on the hollow, projected glyphs from yesterday's data upload. The hum of power cores thrummed beneath his feet, a steady reminder that he was alone on this rimworld outpost. He'd spent nearly 2 years mapping ancient relics of the Valorian Empire, convinced nothing could surprise him. Yet the moment the comm panel chimed, his heart skipped a beat. A formal tone announced, "Envoy nearing Airlock 3. Rowan adjusted his worn jacket, his only nod to Earth's faded academia, and walked down the narrow corridor toward Destiny's door. The ancient ledger. Inside the airlock, a pedestal held a crystalline tablet etched with tiny lines of legal text. Rowan remembered seeing faded copies of Valorian treaties in dusty holobooks, but none glowed with that soft silver light. He studied every curve, every indentation of the lawmaker's calligraphy. Voices crackled through the translator embedded in his wrist, voices polite, curious. Rowan's mind raced. What rare cultural accord required his direct involvement? He closed his eyes and exhaled. He had questions, too many questions, and in that precise moment the crystal tablet shimmered as if alive. The Valorian Envoy. As the airlock door slid open, 3 Valorian emissaries entered. Tall and lithe, their skin held flecks of starlight. Each movement seemed like a slow poem. The leader, Marissa Rihal, inclined her head. Her eyes shone with a gentle violet hue. Rowan's translator clicked softly. "Dr. Sinclair, we honor your scholarship." The envoy's presence filled the room with soft warmth. Fragrant vapors from their ceremonial robes drifted across the floor. Rowan swallowed, struggling to find an answer in his own language. He cleared his throat and gestured to the crystal ledger. Atmosphere of formality. Rihal stepped forward, her voice smooth and urgent. The High Conclave requests a formal cultural exchange. Your unique perspective on Valorian relics is indispensable. Rowan blinked. Cultural exchange meant hours of lectures, carefully worded agreements, but she held the ledger like an invitation to rewrite history. He noticed 2 guards at the hatch, their blades folded in respectful repose. Formality ruled every motion here. The translator repeated, "Please review and sign the accord." Rowan swallowed again, feeling both honored and uneasy. The crystal document. Ledger hovered between them, pulsing with soft white light. Lines of text wrapped around its edge. Rowan read, the undersigned grants. Each sentence spoke of shared knowledge and mutual benefit. But deeper in the text, an unfamiliar clause caught his eye. The undersigned consigns personal sovereignty. He frowned. Personal sovereignty? No translator had defined that phrase. Tiny runes above glowed more brightly as if to draw his eye. Rihal watched him expectantly, her scaled hands folded at her waist. Rowan forced a polite smile and nodded. Hesitation and haste. His mind raced. He scribbled notes on a datapad. Personal sovereignty sounded ominous. Yet Rihal's gaze held promise, access to vaults he'd only dreamed of. His career hinged on discoveries like these. He told himself it was routine. And then he realized the envoy's time was short. They could not linger on dusty details. A soft click echoed when the overhead lights dimmed. He heard the guard shift. Panic nudged at his thoughts. Hands slightly trembling, he raised the plasma stylus. Binding lines. When pressed the stylus against the crystal's edge, the ledger hummed and the text shimmered as if accepting his mark. Words cascaded across the surface. In perpetuity, transfer of rights, absolute tenure. A chill traced down his spine. He tried to recall any training about Valorian law. None mentioned losing all rights to oneself, and still he did not pull back. Whether by curiosity, ambition, or pressure, he watched the lines seal. The envoy's translator repeated, "Thank you, Dr. Sinclair." A final flourish. Rihal nodded in solemn appreciation. "Welcome to the Conclave's legacy." She touched the ledger. With a soft glow, it folded into her robes. Rowan reached out as if to catch it, but it was gone. In its place lay a sealed token, an obsidian coin with his initials etched in silver. "This verifies your accord," Rihal said. His heart pounded as he lifted it. The coin's weight felt heavier than metal. He turned it over, reading unfamiliar runes. The translator remained silent. Unseen consequences. A distant alarm wailed through the station's corridors. Red lights flashed beneath the glass floors. Rihal's expression shifted from calm to concern. "Our station's security is compromised," she whispered. Rowan's mind reeled. He had signed away personal sovereignty. He had no idea what that truly meant, and yet now he was bound to whatever terms that coin represented. He swallowed hard, feeling a new kind of fear. A silent question burned in his mind. What had he truly agreed to? The trap closes. Rihal backed toward the airlock. "We must depart," she said urgently. Rowan stumbled after her. The bridge overhead crackled with static. Footsteps clanged as guards rushed past. Suddenly the transparent wall behind him shimmered, locked, sealed. He pounded on the glass. Rihal glanced back. "We leave you safe for now," she called. The door slid shut. Rowan stood alone, the obsidian coin burning cold in his palm. Outside, the station's red lights pulsed like a heartbeat. Reality shifted. The contract was done. The awakening dreads. Rowan stood frozen, the hiss of the sealed airlock still ringing in his ears. His breath fogged the transparent barrier as panic bloomed in his chest. The obsidian coin felt impossibly heavy in his hand, its runes pulsing like a heartbeat against his palm. Every instinct screamed to tear open the door, but the station's lockdown protocols held fast. He pressed his ear to the glass, straining for any sign of life beyond the crimson alarm lights. Somewhere down the corridor, automated turret systems engaged, their motors whining to life. Rowan's mind raced. The Conclave had promised safety, not entrapment. Yet here he was trapped by his own signature. A cold sweat trickled down his spine as he realized this was no simple misunderstanding. The moment he'd signed, a mechanism had snapped shut, binding him to terms he barely comprehended. The ledger's final clause echoed in his thoughts: absolute tenure of person and mind. And now, alone on Rhea Station, Rowan faced the first true weight of that vow. Locked behind glass. He rounded the small console beside the hatch and frantically tapped commands into the hollow screen. Emergency override protocols flashed red warnings. Access denied, security lock active. Rowan's fingers flew over the interface. He remembered a routine drill: override codes for stations cut off from command. But the Conclave systems were older, alien in design, layered with security matrices he could not decrypt. Every attempt triggered louder alarms. The lights pulsed faster, as if mocking him. He slumped against the console, chest heaving. Outside, the corridor lay empty, sterile, its polished floors reflecting the red glow. No envoy returned, no guard offered parole. The only sound was his own ragged breathing. Rowan closed his eyes and pressed the coin into his jacket pocket. A distant hum vibrated through the floor plate. He realized the lock's derived power from the coin's bond, his bond. Until he found a way to nullify the contract itself, the glass walls would remain unbreakable. Echoes of the coin. He sat on the metal bench, head bowed. Every few seconds, the coin's runes would flare as though attuned to his heartbeat. Rowan retrieved his datapad, determined to parse the encrypted clause. He filmed the coin under the lab's microscope lens, then ran the streamed image through his translation algorithms. Every decoded fragment pointed to a drastic consequence. Should he act against the Conclave, his mind would be forfeit, memories erased, consciousness transferred. Cold dread curled in his gut. He had signed away more than academic rights. He had handed over his very self. Rowan's fingers trembled over the datapad. He sorted through lexicon files, cross-referencing Valorian legal dictionaries. A single term stood out: Southern Tether, a poetic phrase meaning lifebond to Conclave. It implied parliamentary guardians could invade his psyche at will. He swallowed hard. The echoes of the coin's promise reverberated in his skull, reminding him that resistance could cost him his identity. Unraveling the terms. Hours slipped by as he dove deeper into translation logs. Head throbbing, Rowan discovered clauses layered with ritual oaths, every word designed to cement loyalty. One paragraph described the Conclave as a living organism. Its members were cells, and he was now incorporated. The document granted him the right to contribute his knowledge, but at the price of absolute fealty. Betray the Conclave, and his mind would be harvested to fuel its memory banks. Rowan let out a bitter laugh. The moment he had scribbled his signature, he had become an artisan of his own prison. He toggled through other subclauses: rights to his future research, patents on his discoveries, custodial care for his genetic code, all surrendered. A solitary tear tracked down his cheek. He had dreamed of unlocking Valorian secrets. Instead, he had unlocked his own chains. Forbidden transmissions. Desperate for communication, Rowan activated the emergency transceiver. Static answered. He keyed a distress call. "This is Dr. Rowan Sinclair of Proxima B Station. Security breach, unauthorized detainment." The transmission cut off mid-sentence. He retried varying frequencies, boosting output power. Finally, he heard a crackle. "Dr. Sinclair, confirm your status." Rowan nearly collapsed with relief. A voice, human, faint but alive, filtered through. He barked details, but the response chilled him. "We're on lockdown too. Local authorities can't override Conclave protocols. You need to comply until the Conclave issues recall." Rowan's hope drained away. Compliance felt like capitulation. He closed his eyes, palms pressed over his ears to block the translator's echo. The Conclave's grip extended beyond this station. It reached across the entire system. The station's breach. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Rowan stood, heart hammering. The glass partition between Lab Gamma and the hallway shimmered as a robotic sentinel rolled into view. Its single optical sensor scanned every surface. Rowan backed away, hands raised. The sentinel paused at the console, extended a mechanical arm, and tapped the override panel. Lights flickered. A low hydraulic hiss filled the room, and the glass hatch slid open inches below the sentinel's frame. It swung its arm toward Rowan. Adrenaline surged. He lunged for the coin. The runes flared. The sentinel halted, retracting its arm as if warded off by an invisible barrier. Rowan froze in awe. His bond to the Conclave had not only locked him in, it had repelled the Conclave's own machines. He realized his captivity was also his protection. Coded memories. He stumbled back to the bench, clutching his head as a sudden rush of images flooded his mind. Fragments of Valorian history, sun-scorched deserts, crystalline spires. The Conclave's grand hall flashed unbidden. Rowan shook violently, the foreign memories clashing with his own. Panic rolled through him. He pressed his thumbs into his temples, trying to force the visions away. Translator logs once whispered of memory tethering, a practice to share knowledge across species. He had dismissed it as metaphor. Now he felt the tendrils in his brain. Each strain of Valorian memory brought context to the contract's implications. He understood the conclave's urgency. They feared some cataclysm. Perhaps that was why the envoy had pushed the contract so insistently, but it did not lessen his dread. Puppeteer's invitation. Amid the disorienting rush, Rowan noticed a soft ping on his wrist console. A hidden messaging channel had activated. Dr. Sinclair, if you read this, come alone to the observation deck at 200 standard shift, no companions. The signature glowed with a conclave seal. Curiosity warred with caution. The envoy's earlier warmth felt distant now. This might be a genuine attempt to explain the dire stakes, but he could not trust any conclave operative while bound by law to serve them. Still, to ignore the message risked missing his only chance to negotiate terms. He pocketed the coin and stood, spine stiffening with resolve. He would walk into that meeting on his own terms, not as captive, but as scholar. Choice under duress. Rowan set his datapad into a secure holster and powered down non-essential systems to conserve energy. The station's lights dimmed to a soft blue as he moved out of the lab. Each step echoed hollowly in the deserted corridor. He reached the junction where the envoy's airlock had sealed shut. The emergency panels beeped, offering no route except toward the observation deck. He paused, hand hovering over a recessed handgun he kept for emergencies. An impossible decision formed in his mind: fight through the conclave's forces or trust them enough to parley. The coin's weight in his pocket felt less like burden, more like mortgage on his fate. He sighed, voice cracking, "All right, let's talk." Collateral bonds. As he approached the observation deck, a wall-length viewport revealed the living tapestry of Rhea's ring above them. Shards of ice and rock floated in eerie silence. Rowan's reflection merged with the cosmic panorama, reminding him how small he had become. He met the deck's sliding doors, which cracked open at his approach. Inside, Marissa Rihal waited alone, unarmed, her scales dimmed to a gentle violet. Her translator lit up. "Thank you for coming, Dr. Sinclair." Rowan stepped inside, heart pounding. Every clause he had signed bound him to this moment. He squared his shoulders and met her gaze. "Explain," he said, voice firm, and as the door slid shut behind him, he resolved to reclaim his life, word by word, clause by clause, even if it meant unraveling the very contract that held him in its silent grip. Fragile trust. Rowan's boots clicked softly on the observation deck's polished floor as he approached Marissa Rihal. The ring planet Rhea drifted in view behind her, its ice shards glinting in distant starlight. Rihal folded her arms, violet scales shifting like living mosaic tiles. Rowan met her gaze, steady, determined. "You left me locked in a cell," he said, voice low but firm. Her translator glowed as she replied, "Protocol demanded containment until you agreed." A hush fell. Rhea's rings spun silently outside the viewport. Rowan drew a slow breath. "I signed sacred oaths I barely understood. Now I'm tethered to your conclave." Rihal's expression softened. "We never meant to betray you, but our planet faces an extinction we cannot face alone." She extended her hand, palm up, revealing a second obsidian coin identical to his. "This is trust returned. Your terms are pact." Revelation of peril. Rihal led him to a hollow projector at the deck's center. With a gesture, she summoned a three-dimensional star map. A bright turbulence flared at the edge of their system, the Wormstorm, a quantum anomaly born of collapsed suns. Clusters of Valorian research stations had vanished without trace. Earth's outposts, unprepared, would follow within weeks. Rowan's heart pounded. "You signed me to study relics," he whispered, "not fight cosmic storms." Rihal's double pupils narrowed. "Those relics contain knowledge to stabilize subspace, our only hope to divert the Wormstorm. Without your insight, all worlds die." The projector pulsed in their faces, painting them in starfire. Rowan swallowed, mind racing. His betrayal or his brilliance could save billions. Bargaining with memories. Reached into his pocket and withdrew the bonded coin. Its runes now glowed teal, reacting to Rihal's presence. "My mind is not open book," he said. "I won't be used as a memory archive." Rihal nodded respectfully. She tapped her own coin, and the helm's central panel lit with swirling patterns, shared neural pathways. "Our memory tether can be limited," she explained. "You choose what you share. We augment your knowledge with our own archives. Together we unlock the relic's secrets." Rowan studied her face. Fear still lingered, but also relief. They offered him agency rather than chains. He placed his coin on the projector's cradle. Its runes spun and aligned with hers. A gentle hum filled the room. Hidden clauses. As the coin synchronized, holotext scrolled around the star map. Clauses long hidden in the original contract appeared in translucent script. Shared sovereignty, conditional recall, mental privacy safeguards. Rowan's translator struggled to keep pace. He squinted at the lines and realized that Marissa had renegotiated terms in real time using conclave technology to retroactively amend covenants. "You can revoke my tenure," he said slowly. Rihal tapped a sequence on her coin. The offending clauses dissolved into stardust projections. We respect your sovereignty, she promised, but this star will not wait for lawmakers. Once we depart, the wormstorm will engulf us. Rowan's pulse quickened. They offered hope, and with it a burden of swift decisions. Echo of betrayal. A sudden clang echoed as the deck's outer hatch vibrated. Two conclave guards stood outside, their crystalline rifles trained inward. Rihal's scales darkened with concern. Rowan took a step forward. It's okay, they come with news. The guards unshouldered their weapons. High Conclave demands your immediate departure, one announced. The envoy is recalled. Further delay violates Conclave unity. Rihal's translator faltered at the word unity, a code for collective obedience. Rowan's stomach twisted. Unity once meant progress, now it threatened coercion. Rihal placed a hand on his arm. We must leave before politics close this opportunity. He nodded, mind made. Betrayal still stung, but he knew where his duty lay. Edge of escape. The guards led them to a shuttle bay embedded in the station's spine. Outside, storm clouds turned across Ria's horizon. This vessel reaches the Conclave cruiser in orbit, the second guard explained. Rowan's eyes darted to the control panel. Encryption locks matched the bonded coin's signature. He released a breath. The shuttle's door hissed open. He stepped inside, coin in hand, aware that each footfall deepened his entanglement. As the hatch sealed, he glanced back at the observation deck, where Ria's rings looked like broken jewels. The shuttle's engines powered up with a gentle rumble. His heart hammered. Beyond those doors lay both salvation and servitude. Wager of freedom. In the shuttle's cockpit, Rihal faced Rowan across the instrument cluster. Her translator scrolled. You may request one concession from the Conclave before boarding the cruiser. Any right or clause may be amended. Rowan closed his eyes. This was the moment theory became choice. He thought of his home on Earth, of curious students awaiting his lectures. Duty and desire clashed. He opened his palm, showing his coin. I request full recall authority, he said. If the Conclave ever threatens my mind, I can revoke this treaty and walk away. Rihal's eyes glimmered with relief and admiration. A unity forged. The shuttle rose from the station in a plume of azure exhaust. Through the viewport, motes of ice and rock receded as they punched toward the cloaked cruiser above. Rowan sat back, the weight of both coins resting on his lap. He exhaled slowly. For the first time since signing away his life, he felt in control again. Beside him, Rihal's presence was steady. Thank you, she said, voice gentle. Rowan nodded. Outside, the cruiser's silhouette shimmered into view, a leviathan of living architecture. Together, they prepared to merge human ingenuity with Valorian wisdom. The wormstorm loomed on the horizon, but within the shuttle's hull, a fragile unity had been forged, one that might yet save two civilizations. The Conclave Crucible. The shuttle's boarding ramp hissed open against the hulking flank of the Conclave cruiser, Aurora's Veil. Dr. Rowan Sinclair stepped onto the marbled corridor, Rihal at his side. Above them, bioluminescent panels traced the ship's vaulted ceiling like drifting constellations. He felt the weight of every clause he'd signed. His mind tethered, his expertise claimed. Yet within this opulent chamber lay his chance to reshape the pact. The duo was ushered into the Hall of Echoes, a vast domed chamber where the Conclave's High Council convened. Elders clad in ceremonial silks formed a semicircle around a crystalline dais. Antennae-like tendrils quivered atop their heads as they regarded Rowan with unreadable curiosity. At the center, Chancellor Veshra glowed with authority, her silver scales reflecting starlight. Rowan could almost taste the verdict hovering in the air. Rihal stepped forward, lowering her voice so only Rowan's translator could transmit her words. These relics hold the key to both salvation and sovereignty. Dr. Sinclair's contributions are vital and irreversible without his guidance. She laid both bonded coins on the lectern. The runes pulsed in unison, projecting hollow text of the amended treaty. Chancellor Veshra's eyes narrowed as the provisions scrolled. Memory sovereignty guaranteed, contract revocable by bearer, Joint Research Council established. A murmur rippled through the elders. One elder, Senja of the Ice Court, rose in reproach. Such liberties undermine unity. A single renegotiation sets a perilous precedent. Her voice carried an edge of frost. Rowan took a steadying breath. This was his crucible. Unity forged through consent is stronger than unity forced by coercion, he replied, voice echoing off crystalline walls. I will share knowledge freely, but only as equals, not subjects. Chancellor Veshra regarded him in silence. The chamber's luminescence dimmed until her scales glowed like molten mercury. Finally, she spoke, Your words honor your office and your sovereignty. Let the conclave's vote proceed. A panel of elders cast their decision through subtle bioluminescent shifts along their robes. The tally resolved, pact upheld with amendments. A collective exhale rippled through the hall. Rihal released a quiet sigh of relief. Rowan's pulse eased as the amended treaty sealed in holographic glyphs above the dais. He felt the bond loosen just enough to breathe without fear. Chancellor Veshra descended the dais and extended a scaled hand. Dr. Sinclair, you honor both our peoples. Tomorrow we commence joint activation of the subspace stabilizer. As they exited the Hall of Echoes, Rihal gave him a rare, warm smile. Rowan gazed out at the swirling cosmos beyond the cruiser's viewport. The wormstorm still churned on the horizon of spacetime, but now with trust restored, two civilizations would stand together against oblivion. And together, he and Rihal would write the next chapter in both human and Valorian history, Alliance Under Pressure. Rowan and Rihal stood side by side on the engineering deck, surrounded by glowing conduits and humming power cores. The air tasted of ionized metal and distant stars. Around them, Valorian engineers in iridescent gear adjusted subspace resonators, their movements precise and calm. Rowan felt urgency pulsing in his veins, every second counted. The wormstorm continued its relentless march through the void, and only the stabilizer could halt its advance. He laid a hand on the main console, where both obsidian coins rested in mirrored cradles. Their runes glowed softly, syncing human thought with Valorian technology. Together, they would combine the relic's ancient designs with his own research to forge a weapon against oblivion. Descent to the core. The engineers activated a translucent platform beneath Rowan and Rihal, lowering them toward the ship's core. Through the grated floor, he saw spiraling subspace currents, ribbons of shifting light that defied physics. Each swirl represented a potential fracture in spacetime, a doorway the wormstorm could exploit. Rowan swallowed hard, mind racing. The Conclave's scholars had theorized that the relic's energy matrix could reinforce the fabric of subspace, but theory alone would not save lives. He adjusted his wrist console, overlaying Terrian and Valorian schematics. Rihal studied his display, her eyes reflecting the dancing lights. They exchanged a silent nod. They both understood the stakes and the dread. Unraveling the relics. At the heart of the core lay the relic's chamber, a circular pit lined with crystalline veins that pulsed with dormant power. Rowan approached the edge, his trained eyes scanning every inscription carved into the walls. These glyphs matched the ledger's runes, but here they formed circuits, guiding energy flows when the stabilizer fired. He crouched beside a shimmering panel, running his data probes along each line. Some connections were incomplete, dormant loops that needed human insight to bridge gaps. Rihal knelt opposite him, her translator softly annotating his findings in Valorian script. As they worked, the chamber's glow intensified, as if eager to be awakened. Subspace resonator calibration. Once the relic circuits were mapped, Rowan and Rihal moved to the resonator banks, columns of oscillating fields designed to channel the storm's destructive force away from the ship. Rowan keyed in adjustment parameters based on his Earth experiments with quantum field modulators. Rihal monitored the readouts, calling out corrections in melodic Valorian. The hum deepened as each resonator locked onto specific harmonic frequencies. Together, they created a lattice of counterwaves poised to intercept the incoming storm. Despite their different training, their methods meshed seamlessly, human ingenuity guiding Valorian precision. Rowan felt a burst of pride. This collaboration was his chance to prove equal partnership. Channeling human insights. As the lattice neared completion, Rowan stepped forward and placed his palm on the central resonator's control panel. The relic responded, its runes flaring in warm gold. He closed his eyes and recalled the hundreds of tests he had run on Earth, the failure of field stabilizers, the lessons learned from each miscalculation. He transmitted that experience through the bonded coin neural link, letting the Conclave's network absorb his insight. The resonator walls shivered, realigning their subspace geometry to optimal parameters. Rihal watched in awe as human memory reshaped alien technology. In that moment, Rowan knew he was more than a guest. He was a co-creator of salvation. Valorian guidance. Rihal now took center stage. She placed both coins into the final activation cradle, an orb of polished crystal at the chamber's core. The orb's facets caught every beam of light, fracturing it into thousands of miniature stars. She uttered a short oath in her native tongue, vibrating with ancient cadences. Her voice harmonized with the relic's hum. Rowan felt the chamber's walls pulse in time with her words. The pledged oath bound not only his mind but his spirit, weaving a covenant of unity. As her last syllable faded, the orb's glow exploded outward, filling the core with blinding radiance. Climactic activation. The stabilizer came alive. Conduits along the ship's spine discharged torrents of controlled energy into the subspace lattice. The hum evolved into a resonant tone that reverberated through every bulkhead. Rowan and Rihal locked eyes, adrenaline surging. They braced against the platform's walls as the chamber trembled. Outside, the cosmic storm appeared on the ship's sensors, an impossibly vast maelstrom of quantum turbulence. As it drew near, the stabilizer fired. A shockwave of pure counter-frequency radiated outward, weaving a protective cocoon around Aurora's veil. Rowan watched on the holographic display as the storm's edge peeled away, diverted by the precise lattice they had built. Cheers and relieved exhalations echoed through comm channels. They had succeeded. The ripple effect. But the victory was only the beginning. The stabilizer's ripple extended beyond the ship, touching nearby stations and even the rings of Rhea. Sensors lit up as each outpost reported renewed stability. The Conclave's fleet shifted course back toward civilized space, confidence restored. Rowan stared at the orb now dimming in the core, its work done. He felt exhaustion mingle with elation. He had risked his mind, his sovereignty, but the result was clear. Two civilizations, united by shared purpose, had averted catastrophe. In that moment he saw the true power of their alliance, trust forged under pressure, proof that cooperation could triumph over impending doom. Aftershocks of hope. As the chamber's lights returned to normal, Rihal placed a gentle hand on Rowan's shoulder. "You have saved more than lives," she said through the translator. "You have shown that together we transcend our differences." Rowan smiled, voice hoarse but steady. "We saved our futures." He lifted the relic orb, its weight surprisingly light now that its power was spent. Outside the chamber, crews began repairs and celebrations. The wormstorm had been staved off, but the real challenge lay ahead, rebuilding trust across species, exploring joint ventures beyond crisis. Rowan glanced at the bonded coins, now silent and cool. Their glow had faded, but their promise remained. A reminder that even the smallest signature, when forged in understanding, could reshape the course of history. Echoes of consequence. The corridors of Aurora's Vale thrummed with renewed life as the hum of the stabilizer faded into routine. Dr. Rowan Sinclair walked beside Ambassador Rihal, their footsteps echoing off crystalline walls. Crew members paused to greet them with grateful nods, Earth scientists and Valorian scholars alike united by shared relief. Yet beneath the surface celebration lay new questions. How would this fragile alliance weather the politics of peace? Rowan tightened his grip on the relic orb, now safely stowed in a containment case. Its power had saved worlds, but its origins remained as mysterious as ever. Council deliberations. Rowan and Rihal were summoned back to the Hall of Echoes for post-crisis deliberations. The High Council's elders gathered once more, their scales shifting with the weight of recent events. Chancellor Veshra opened the session. "Thanks to Dr. Sinclair, our worlds endure, but crisis alone cannot sustain unity." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Rowan took a deep breath and addressed the council. "We must transform emergency cooperation into lasting partnership through shared research, open councils, and cultural exchanges." His translation rendered human determination in Valorian vowels. An elder from the Gaslattis sector rose. "How do we balance sovereignty with shared goals?" Rowan met her gaze. "By establishing equal representation, half the seats human, half Valorian on every scientific board." Heads inclined in thoughtful agreement. Building new bridges. Following the council meeting, Rowan and Rihal toured the newly designated Alliance Wing, where human and Valorian labs merged. Glass partitions revealed scientists from both cultures collaborating on subspace models, comparing Terran and Valorian data. Rowan paused at a workstation where a young Terran engineer showed a Valorian colleague how to calibrate quantum sensors. Across the room, Valorian artists sketched holographic interpretations of human starships. He realized that saving their worlds had been only the first step. Now they would save their friendship through daily cooperation. Rihal squeezed his arm, her gesture personal, hopeful. Personal reflections. Later, Rowan retired to his cabin, an adapted Valorian suite with soft lighting and a view of the cosmic vista. He sat on a low platform and held the twin obsidian coins in his palm. The runes no longer flared, but their memory remained. He thought of Earth's morning light, of the students awaiting his lectures, and of the trust he now carried for an alien people. A soft chime announced Rihal's arrival. She entered with 2 cups of warm spiced tea, Rihalian custom. They shared a silent moment, sipping the fragrant brew. He realized his life had irrevocably changed. He was no longer just a visiting scholar, but a bridge between civilizations. Lingering doubts. Despite victories, doubts gnawed at Rowan's mind. The treaty amendments guaranteed his memory sovereignty, but what if political winds changed? What if a future conclave revoked his rights? He voiced his fears to Rihal. "I worry we built our peace on a contract that might unravel." Rihal folded her hands compassionately. "True unity arises from trust, not just treaties. We will honor our word as you have honored yours." Her tone was gentle but firm. Rowan nodded, comforted by her conviction, yet aware that vigilance would remain his lifelong duty. A cultural exchange begins. The next morning, Rowan presided over the first joint lecture in the Alliance Hall, a forum broadcast across Valorian stations and terrestrial nets alike. He introduced concepts of human subspace theory, while Rihal translated and added Valorian historical context. Together, they demonstrated the stabilizer's inner workings. Students, both human and Valorian, listened in rapt attention, asking questions that sparked lively debate. Rowan smiled as a young Valorian scholar pointed out a potential design improvement. Learning, he realized, was the living heart of their new alliance. An unexpected message. As the lecture closed, Rowan's wrist console beeped. An encrypted transmission from Earth Command. "Dr. Sinclair, status report on Valorian collaboration. Are there any security risks?" His heart tightened. Though he trusted the Council, Earth's leaders still viewed alien alliances with suspicion. He replied candidly, "Alliance shows promise, no security concerns, will send detailed report." He set the console aside, hoping his words would reassure distant superiors. Rihal leaned over, "Do not worry, I will speak to your delegates when they arrive." He nodded, grateful for her support. Forging ahead. That evening, Rowan and Rihal walked along the observation promenade, the rings of Rhea glinting beneath them like frozen jewels. Their voices mingled softly as they discussed future projects, mapping Valorian archives, developing joint starship designs, and even raising exchange students. Each idea unfurled possibilities for deeper understanding. Rowan realized his life, once defined by solitary research, had blossomed into a shared journey. As they paused at the railing, he looked at Rihal's profile against the starfield and felt hope swell inside him. Promise of tomorrow. Before parting for the night, Rowan raised his hand and gently tapped his coin against Rihal's. The runes shimmered in harmony, a silent vow between them. Under that alien sky, he whispered, "Tomorrow we begin a new chapter together." Rihal's translator rendered his words in lilting tones. She offered a soft smile and clasped his hand briefly. As he returned to his cabin, Rowan carried with him the conviction that even after crises end, it is the everyday acts of trust, cooperation, and shared vision that truly bind worlds and hearts together.